So I want to talk to you a little bit today about corporate giving, but I have to start with something first. I had an occasion earlier today to meet Ed Norton, who you're going to see in just a few minutes. Oh my gosh, he is dreamy. I don't know how to behave because that man is so good looking. I actually think his hair is spun from the gold of angels made by little baby angel hands or something. I actually even have a shirt have a Crowd Rise shirt as a result of him. I bought it online in anticipation of meeting him. So I just wanted to say, what an awesome, awesome guy. So corporate giving, couple of things that I wanted to talk about. First of all, for me, I've been doing this for 20 years, and it really is amazing when your passions sync up with what you know and what you love. And this has been a tremendous journey for me in working for the organizations that Valerie talked about, but also working for United Airlines. You know, there's an important saying that I love, and it's, when the world's greatest need meets your greatest joy, that's where your calling lies. And that's how I feel. It's been really awesome to be able to sync those up. And I ended up here by happen chance, frankly. I ended up in this place because of a very lucky opportunity, and I've ended up spending a career being able to guide the social conscience of a number of different companies. So giving is an act that is done without any expectation of something in return. And I want us to ponder that for a second because it is so true. But the other piece of that is, as a person who works for a corporate entity, there's a little bit of a different approach because we turn that on its head a little bit. Giving for us means that we are looking for the opportunity to have a return on our investment. We manage to a lot of different stakeholders, a lot of different people, whether it's our coworkers, whether it's our shareholders. And so we are constantly looking for ways to be relevant. We're constantly looking for ways to enhance our brand. And our brand is constantly pushed to be more and more relevant as things go forward. You know, one of the things that people always talk about when they talk about what I call corporate giving is they call it corporate philanthropy. So one of the things that I think is really important for me to identify here today is that there are a couple of things about those of us who sit in this type of a seat. Number one, it's not philanthropy because it's not our money. We are managing shareholder resources, and it's also not done as an altruistic activity, which is what I was speaking to before. We are stewards of the resources. I work with a tremendous group of people, the most incredible team, who are thoughtful and who understand the tug and the pull and the tension of what it means to support organizations that are in the community and have an impact and do what we do to make a difference. Our currency is everything from tickets to human capital, to cash, to a number of different things. And we get hundreds of requests every week, thousands of requests every year. And it's not easy. It's no easy feat because what we have to do is decipher and sort through all of the things that come our way to figure out what will make the most sense for us as a company, what keeps us relevant, what things can we support that are relevant in a world that is ever evolving, that is ever changing, and when there are so many opportunities to support so many different things. One of the things that people don't often know about people who sit in our seat, and I see my team like right front and center, so I'm just going to wave at them right there because, hey guys, all of a sudden I saw those faces. One of the things that people don't necessarily know is that we end up saying no 95% of the time. It's only about 5% of the requests that we get in that ever get supported or that ever will get supported because there just simply are limited resources and there are so many opportunities that are out there. The key point about that is relevance. Because, and let me define relevance. Relevance is about being rooted in the history while being aware of the past in order to be, being rooted in the history while being aware of the future in order to be effective now. And that is a really important notion, because as we are constantly getting things that are coming our way, we're constantly looking for relevancy. And the world is ever changing, as I was saying before. And so in order for us to stay relevant, we have to stay apprised of what's going on in the world. You know, an interesting thing happened a couple of weeks ago. We had an organization that came in that said, we just want to be hip. We just want to be hip. And I looked at this organization, and the organization is a 100-plus-year-old organization. And quite frankly, it will never be in their wheelhouse to be hip. It just won't. And I had to be transparent and honest to say that to them. That is not your key goal here. You know, your key goal is to do what you do well, but hip is not a qualifier, and I think that that's a mistake that organizations make. Being hip is not being relevant. Being hip is not staying apprised of what you need to be doing as an organization. Relevance is about understanding the landscape in which you're playing. It's about looking across multiple disciplines. It's about being able to be nimble. It's about being able to look at the opportunity to be able to read it, see it, feel it, touch it, and course correct if it isn't right. And that is a challenge, frankly, that I see with so many organizations. Again, we see lots of organizations that come our way, but so many of them don't pass the cut because they're still locked in an old mission. Now, the organizations that I call sort of the sacred cows are the easiest ones to weed out. Some of the newer organizations, or organizations that are really working to stay relevant in their mission, those are the organizations that tend to rise to the top and get through the door. As I mentioned, I've been doing this for 20 years, over 4 companies, and when I first came to United 8 years ago, and it seems like just yesterday, but it was 8 years, the first thing that I realized was that I was working for a company that was in bankruptcy, a company that had had a lot of changes in terms of labor reductions and was trying to redefine itself in order to be relevant. And the charge for the team and myself was to align with the business in order for us to be relevant and to stay relevant as well. Again, no small, easy feat. And so one of the things that we are poised with doing in the group that I lead is constantly reevaluating the work that we do, what the organizations that we support. We do a zero-based analysis every year of every organization that we support. Now, to be honest, there are organizations that we kind of have in mind from year to year we're going to be supporting them, or there's a high likelihood that we will remain engaged with those organizations. But truth be told, we look at it from a zero-based perspective, and we ask ourselves, is this organization remaining relevant? Is the mission of the organization still in alignment with who we are trying to be as a company? Because remember, we have a community to serve. We have people who, we have coworkers, employees who work all over the country and who have a care and a thought about where our resources go. And so we are constantly evaluating and looking at those things to make sure that we are staying relevant. And that whatever is in our wheelhouse makes sense and is relevant to who we are. You know, a couple of years ago, well, a number of years ago, we started a program, and the program was a cause-related program that custom designed a teddy bear that went to children with cancer and that raised miles and money to help people battling cancer. And the program was going along fine. And then the merger happened. We merged with another company, with Continental. And all of a sudden, we realized that there was an opportunity, and a very incredible and bright person on the team said, I know a way to change this program, make it new, refresh, make it more relevant, and we can come up with more ways that will engage more people, that will engage our customers, our colleagues, our constituents in a very different way. And ultimately, the goal is to make the program a self-sustaining one. But looking at that looking at that opportunity goes back to the whole point of how do we remain relevant? And I think that that's certainly what, what we were able to do. The other thing I want to talk about a little bit is that I think currently giving is in a little bit of a state of peril right now. And that's a tough thing to say, but I say that because I have a big concern that organizations are often burdened by their missions. And what I mean by that is so often organizations will have a very specific mission and they will be stuck on whatever that mission is and can't move off of that, and they don't sync up with the funding that, that they need in order to stay afloat and stay relevant. One of the worst things that I ever hear from organizations is, what do you want us to be? How do you want us to serve? Because that's not our role as a funder. Our role is to help advance the mission of the organization, not direct and push organizations to be something that they're not. I also think that corporations sometimes suffer from the same things because we get caught up in this whole notion of if our brand can't be the brand that's out in front, then we can't partner with certain organizations. And I think that to a certain extent, it's time for us all to think about this and think about how we turn those notions, particularly from the corporate and brand sharing and collaboration notion, on its head in order to affect change. There are a couple of contexts that I like to think about in terms of remaining effective. The first one is collective, because we all have a responsibility. The collective is how we work together as a group, how we come together as a group for the greater good, for whatever it is we're doing. The second is individual, and the individual piece, which is how we serve on boards, which is how we use our skills and our abilities for the greater good, combines with the collective. And I think that that's the sweet spot. That's the tension around where we have the biggest opportunity in terms of creating and validating change. And the last one is personal, and I separate individual from personal because I think we all have a personal responsibility to engage. Now, with all due respect to any product that any of us may buy, being good consumers does not necessarily make us good supporters and good stewards and socially responsible. And so we all have a sphere of influence. We all have the opportunity to get in where we fit in and engage, and our personal responsibility can be done in any way. I think people don't realize necessarily the amount of influence that each of us has personally. I remember last Thanksgiving, I decided that there was no point in me eating a bunch more turkey and dressing and 5,000 calories in one day because I simply don't need that in my clothing. And so I made the choice to use my resources to buy turkeys and buy food and buy all of the fixings in order to have a Thanksgiving meal for people in need. I ended up being able to feed 250 people on Thanksgiving who would not have otherwise had a meal. And that is, from my perspective, my ability to engage in a personal way. And so as you think about how you are relevant and what things you can do in your own respective wheelhouses that helps you remain relevant and that moves the needle to create change, the one question that I have for you and that I'll leave you with is, are you relevant? Thank you for listening and have a great day.